Well, let's get some analysis now with Mark Shanahan in Oxfordshire. He's an Associate Professor of Politics at the University of Surrey. Welcome to the program, Mark. Well, given that the UK has experienced a staggering 90% rise in hate crimes against Muslims since 2015, how is it that some far-right figures, and including the former Home Secretary Suella Braverman, justify their rhetoric without acknowledging the violence and division that it's incited across the country?
We had a general election a month ago that largely removed many of these right-wing figures from power. The Conservative government lost, and out of 650 seats in Parliament, 500 went to progressive parties who really dismissed this rhetoric of division that we'd had from a government for 14 years, that particularly since Brexit had built up into being attacks on immigrants, largely the Muslim community, but basically anyone who was other. And this has insidiously radicalized a number of white working class men in particular in this country who have bought into a narrative of division that was played out by the past government. Now, the likes of Braverman are no longer in office, and her influence is very much reduced. But you have people like Nigel Farage and Richard Tice from the Reform Party, who've now for the first time won seats in government, who will never explicitly tell people to go out and attack other people, but will sow the seeds of discontent and will play up the politics of division. It isn't helped by much of the media over here. Much of the media is still quite right-wing, and until recently, though not now, has been quite supportive of this narrative of division. Equally, the BBC in this country has not been far behind on this and has platformed far too many people who have played into that narrative. And now you have social media, and not least Elon Musk, demonstrably proving that great wealth does not seem to come with great wisdom. And all of this is just helping to foment a situation where there are actually relatively few people involved, but they are noisy, they are very, very visible on the streets. And what we are seeing is episodes of domestic terrorism.
With the UK facing one of its worst public infrastructure crises due to a decade of austerity, isn't it a diversionary tactic then to blame immigrants and Muslims instead of addressing the root causes of the economic and social turmoil?
That's a pretty good summary. I mean, what we're seeing here, I suspect, is the last hurrah of the far right, who have lost political power. They've lost their influence on the Conservative Party, which in turn has lost government after 14 years. Yes, we've had austerity from the days of David Cameron back in 2010, which has really played out through Johnson, through May, through Truss, through Rishi Sunak, all the way through to the election in the summer. The new government under Keir Starmer has only been in for a month and has arrived in a pretty awful economic situation for the country, where there is very little money in the Treasury to spend on anything. It's too early in a month to see the turnaround, but people are blaming the wrong targets. It's not the fault of immigrants. It is less the fault of people seeking asylum for the fact that our public services have been chronically underfunded for more than a decade. But that message really doesn't get through. And it's hard for that message to get through if you are in a community where you can't get a doctor's appointment, and the schools aren't great, and the roads are full of potholes. So there is no justification for this. This is largely yobbish, loutish behaviour. And there are far too many people going on and filming it rather than staying away. The media is probably not helping by giving these louts the oxygen of publicity. And I think what we will see over the next few days is the courts cracking down on these protesters and people who thought that they were having a very nice night out, actually being put up in court and ending up in our prisons. And they're not particularly nice places to be.
Okay, Mark Shanahan, we will have to leave it there, but thank you so much for sharing your thoughts with us here on TRT World.
Thank you.